We are joined today by Dawn Keezer, Executive Director of the Pittsburgh Film Office. For those who may not know, what are the duties of your office?
So the Pittsburgh Film Office, we represent all of southwestern Pennsylvania, so the 10-county region. To what I used to call the film industry, we really work hard now to call it the screen industry because people watch it in all kinds of different ways. A lot of people are watching on that little screen on their phone. So we refer to it as the screen. But movies, feature films, TV, commercials, independent films, student projects, corporate videos, anyone doing any type of recording, productions, they work with our office, and we're their one-stop shop. So we're selling southwestern Pennsylvania to the clients to get them to come here. Once they're here, we help them find everything they need: crew, vendors, hotels, car rentals, lumber, whatever it is. We're the one-stop shop just for the film, TV, and screen industries in southwestern PA.
Does your office receive any government funding at all, or is it labeled as like a government office?
We're not a government office. We're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We've been in existence for since 1990. And yes, we receive funding from Allegheny County. We receive funding from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. We receive funding from corporate sponsors. Our operating budget's a little under $1 million a year, and we have 4 full-time staff.
What is unique about Pennsylvania that will drive filmmakers to use it in their work?
Southwestern Pennsylvania is unique in that you can pretty much get anything that you need as long as you don't need a beach or a desert. 2 things we're missing, although for the beaches, we send them up to Erie, and you can use the sand as the desert sometimes too. We have played Iraq in a few movies, but it's the diversity of locations that are in southwestern PA that's one of our strongest selling points. I get in trouble a lot because I say that we do New York better than New York does here in southwestern PA. But we do, because we're able to shut down traffic. We're able to close down blocks of streets. You can get that look of that urban downtown core in a smaller area in downtown, the central business district, if you will, of Pittsburgh. We have some of the best crew in the country. I'm not the only one who says that. Producers that are here. There's over 5,000 people that live and work in this industry in southwestern PA. There's 20,000 statewide, for those of you keeping track. The biggest driver of success for our industry is the successful Pennsylvania film tax credit, currently at $100 million. That has to support 2 production centers, both in Philly and in Pittsburgh, and smaller markets throughout the state. But combined with our successful film tax credit, the diversity of locations, and our amazing local crew, people always want to come and film in southwestern PA, thankfully.
Can you talk a little bit about what the film tax credit does here in Pennsylvania?
Absolutely. The film tax credit is an incentive program that was created almost 18 years ago to attract filming to the Commonwealth. We are one of 42 states and one of as part of 30 countries that have an incentive for this very lucrative industry. Essentially, we have projects that come to Pennsylvania. They apply through the Department of Community and Economic Development. Once they're accepted, they must spend 60% of their budget in the Commonwealth on eligible expenditures. Eligible just means they've paid Pennsylvania taxes. It's a pretty quick rule of thumb you can use. So people, places, and things that they're paying for, it has to be a Pennsylvania business they purchase or rent anything from. And once they've done everything they said they're going to do, we give them back a 25% tax credit. I equate it to a 25% off coupon at your favorite department store or somewhere else. And essentially, this is money that we would never have in the Commonwealth. So I like easy numbers. So we're going to have my pretend $10 million movie. So on a $10 million movie, I've applied through DCD, all of my paperwork's in, I've been approved. I go make my movie. I spend a minimum of 60%, which in this case would be $6 million in the Commonwealth. But in reality, I did the whole movie here. So I spent all $10 million. So we finish, the project's completed. I have to hire an outside auditor, someone who does, an outside company, usually a Pennsylvania auditor. So we're giving them some business too. They audit the production. So we know every dime they've spent. We know how many people they hired. We know how many cars they rented. We know how many flats of plywood they had delivered to their stage. Once their audit's complete, their paperwork is submitted to the Department of Community and Economic Development, who reviews it. They submit it to the Department of Revenue, and then Department of Revenue reviews it. Once they approve it, the tax credit certificate is awarded back to the production company. So it's a detailed process, not difficult. It usually takes 18 to 24 months from start to finish, which means we're using that full revenue from these productions for that 18 to 24 months before we ever give them a 25% off 25% tax credit. This again is projects, they won't come here without an incentive. As I said, there's 42 states that have some sort of program. Our biggest competitors are outspending us by hundreds of millions of dollars. New Jersey is currently at $450 million. New York is at $710 million. Illinois is an uncapped program. And Georgia is an uncapped program with a 30% tax credit. So when you're uncapped, as I told you, we have 100 million. When you're uncapped, you don't ever run out of funding, and you're never putting out the close for business sign, which unfortunately we put out pretty much within 2 weeks once the budget's approved, because the projects come in so quickly and we go through the funding so rapidly. Georgia, with their 30% uncapped program, did $6.6 billion worth of business last year. We typically average on this side of the state about 150 million per year, as does Philly. So 300 million versus 6.6 billion to an uncapped program, it's a big difference in what's happening there.
Pennsylvania's, like you said, their tax credit is $100 million. That's limit. Why that specific amount of money?
I wish I knew the answer to that. This program started 18 years ago at $10 million. And we were really not quite smart when we did it the first time, because we made it a prorated amount of money. And it was a grant program. So on July 1st, we had $10 million. And if you wanted to film in Pennsylvania, we'd say, oh, yeah, come. They're like, well, what's our incentive going to be? Well, we don't know yet. We'll tell you by the end of the year, because we made everyone divide that pot of $10 million. It doesn't work. It was silly. I don't know where we came up with it, but it didn't work. Year 2, we got really serious about having this industry in Pennsylvania overall. We realized the economic potential. We realized the economic impact from having these productions in the Commonwealth, the money they're spending, the jobs for the people they're hiring here in Pennsylvania. So we went all in at $75 million. So at our high, we're at 100. At our low, we were at 42 million at one year. It's gone up and down. And I think sometimes it's hard for people to see the direct economic impact back to them, because it's so spread out through the economy. When I have a film in southwestern PA, especially, they use a lumber yard down the street. They're using 5 different dry cleaners, because everything that's worn on set has to be dry cleaned and returned the next day. And these are businesses that you don't typically think about, right? When you're thinking about the film industry, it's like, oh, I'm a dry cleaner to the stars. That's not what you talk about, right? You talk about the people working, the actors. But in our case, it's our local crew. We've quadrupled the size of our local IATSE crew. IATSE is the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees. These are the people who work behind the scenes. This is the electrics that move the lights. This is the grips that move the cables. This is makeup. This is hair. It's all of the people who are the workers behind the scenes. And they've quadrupled the size of that union crew base. We've had 35 people buy their first homes since we started this incentive program in the Commonwealth. And we needed to stay competitive. So at 100 million, it's where we've been. We've asked this year for the legislature to take a look at it and take us to 300 million so we can remain competitive. If you look at what's happened in the TV industry, especially in all those apps you have on your phone and on your TV, the amount of streaming that is out there, the amount of content needed to fill those channels like Netflix and Apple and Amazon and everything, they want to go places where it's cost effective. They have experienced crew they can work with, and they have a diversity of locations so it can look like they're in different places throughout the world. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has that throughout the state. We're very fortunate in southwestern PA to have a lot of it. So we're hoping people are finally understanding this is about supporting Pennsylvanians. This is about supporting Pennsylvania jobs, and that they'll take it to the 300 million, which is so desperately needed to keep this industry growing, thriving, and continuing in the Commonwealth.
What impact does filming movies in Pennsylvania have on the Commonwealth as a whole and their finances and their economy? I know you mentioned like the local business is getting attention, but why should more movies come to Pennsylvania? How would that impact the economic status?
These are jobs, and these are jobs of your friends and neighbors. When we did this study back in 2016 with the Milken Institute, even I was surprised that there's 20,000 people statewide. We have 5,000 in the region. That number continues to grow. We did a study last year with the Rand Institute and looked at what the economic impact is, which is totaling about 150 million per year just in southwestern PA. It's about the same amount on the Philadelphia side, and there's a little bit in the center. The goal with all of this is to make this a statewide industry, have work going out throughout the entire Commonwealth. It gets a little challenging when you get too far from the production centers because they don't have all the equipment they need. They don't have all the crew that they need. which is why we've started a workforce training program we call Create PA with the expectation it goes statewide. Started it in Southwestern PA because as you train people to work throughout the state, the productions are going to be willing to go there, work there throughout the region, and really get out there. But on the whole, what we've found is the incentive drives the work to Pennsylvania, which then drives the jobs, the small businesses, and it runs the money through the economy. We base our numbers. When I tell you it's 150 million per year, that's based on the audited financial statements because we know, because we had to get audited to get their film tax credit. So we know the numbers and we know exactly where they're spending this money. So the return on investment is there, but it's throughout the economy. It doesn't always return dollars directly to the Commonwealth, but that's not what a tax credit's designed for on any tax credit, of which the Commonwealth does have 17 of those. But it's about getting money to move through the economy, not pay taxes per se, if that makes sense.
How is the tax credit funded? Is it through the government?
Yes, it's a tax credit through the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and it's currently budgeted at $100 million.
And it's not, is it taxpayer dollars at all, or just set aside from the government itself?
Well, I guess technically that is taxpayer dollars, right? Isn't all the government funding tax dollars?
You're right.
I guess I've never really looked at it that way. I mean, we're a line item in the budget. Under DCED's budget, there's a line item, it's $100 million. But the reminder is, yes, there's a $100 million line item. That means there was a $400 million spend in the Commonwealth, right? So looking at it like your checking account, how I try to keep it simple. It doesn't really work that way because, yes, the Commonwealth overall might have written a $100 million tax credit, right? But overall, they brought in $400 million into the economy, which is spread throughout Pennsylvanians who are paying their taxes and sending their kids to college and buying shoes for their children and buying food and buying cars and buying houses and doing all the things that makes the economy work in Pennsylvania. So it's hard to look at it at one-to-one, but it is a line item in the budget under DCED's budget.
How many projects apply for the tax credit every year, and how many use it?
Well, we're very limited at 100 million, which sounds crazy. $100 million to me I probably wouldn't be here having this interview with you. I'd be on a beach somewhere, ordering my butler to do something. I don't know what, but at 100 million, it sounds like a lot of money. But when you look at the average TV series anymore, it costs between 80 to $100 million, which means they would earn between 20 and 25 million in a tax credit. The funding goes very quickly. We spend a lot of time focused on episodic television, a television series. Mm-hmm. And I use that term even when I'm talking about a series on Netflix, even though that's technically not TV. Mm-hmm. But those are the shows that come in for 6 to 9 months at a time. They employ more people. Currently, we just wrapped Mayor of Kingstown, which is on Paramount Plus. They had 800 people working every single day for 9 months.
Wow.
And we expect them to come back for season 4. What's also nice about those shows is they promote from within. So if on season 2, you were the second, on the next season, you're going to move up because they've worked with you. They've built those relationships. Our record high was in 2021. We had 11 projects filmed in Southwestern PA. We were able to get the tax credits expanded enough to move it around to get 11 projects in. This last year we had 3. This year right now we've only had the 1. We've only had Mayor of Kingstown, and I believe Philly only had 2 because of how much less tax credit funding was actually available for some of these projects. You have all kinds of people applying for these credits. I think on average, there's probably 20 to 25 shows that apply every single year. There's some smaller projects, larger projects. The tax credit really works if you're at $1 million and above. This wasn't really ever designed for small emerging filmmakers because what they really need is cash. Mm-hmm. They don't really need to go through this whole process that was set up for a large investment into our economic system into Pennsylvania. So we're hoping to set up a grant program to start helping our emerging filmmakers as well. And that's in the works as we speak.
Did the number of productions that are filmed in Pennsylvania, did that change as the tax credit increased over the years?
Oh, absolutely. And the number one question, because people call, we've called them or they've called us, but the first question always is there any money left in your program? Mm. And if the answer is no, they say, it was great talking to you. See you next year. Bye. And they go on to the next market because this is a worldwide competition. Mm-hmm. People want this work. So yes, back in the early days, before the tax credit, I've had this job almost 30 years. Before the tax credit, we were lucky to do 1, maybe 2 movies a year. That wasn't enough for anyone to build a career, but our crew was so well trained, they would travel around the world because producers would come here, hire them, and take them with them. It was an amazing thing. But once the tax credits were in place at a real level, which was 17 years ago when it was 75 million, the first year it was real, that first year we did a 5-picture deal with Lionsgate. They agreed to make 5 films in exchange for the tax credits they knew that Pennsylvania had. So it put us on the map. And it increased the number of inquiries, people who wanted to see if it could work in Pennsylvania, and absolutely increased the number of projects that were allowed to be filmed here. At 300 million, which is what we've asked for and we hope to get, that gets us a little more competitive, and hopefully it'll spread the work out a little bit more. But the entertainment industry is the number one export from the United States. I mean, I don't want to call it an insatiable beast, but it kind of is, because if you think about all the channels and all the need, and Pennsylvania is well positioned to be at the forefront of this arena, that we've been making movies here since 1914 in Pittsburgh, 1913 in Philadelphia, and people have the experience. And when they come here, at least in Southwestern PA, which is where I represent, they're welcomed with open arms by the community, right? Like sometimes it's annoying that your street's closed on your way to work, but for the most part, we're like, yay, another movie showing off Southwestern PA and what Pittsburgh looks like today. And it's been a great experience for most people that get involved.
How can Pennsylvania bring in more movies to be filmed?
More money. It's when I start sounding like a broken record. But look, we haven't, the increase is desperately needed because we haven't kept competitive. We have other states beating us at this point. West Virginia has an uncapped film tax credit. They don't have any crew, but they have an uncapped film tax credit. So we've been working with them on helping them try to figure out ways into the industry. There's 300 people in the world that do this job that I do, and we all work together. But I looked at that and went, wait, you're uncapped? You don't ever run out of money? But we lose work to Georgia. We lose work to New Jersey. And the other thing they've done in these states is they've invested in infrastructure. And we haven't done that in the Commonwealth either. So we've been working to build a soundstage facility, a purpose-built, brand new from the ground up. Because again, it's all about the future of the industry. It's about where this industry is headed 5-10 years from now, not right now today. And with the advent of all of this technology and how it's all being driven, you have to have these spaces that can accommodate that while still utilizing our local crew, our local vendors, because that's really the key. But we've been using repurposed warehouses on this side of the state. So yeah, they're big, empty, old buildings that we've cleaned up and are able to use. But future, people need those sound stages that are purpose-built with all the bells and whistles. And that's what we're hoping to build in Rankin at our Cary Furnace site very soon, because we've been working on that for quite a while. So in addition to more film tax credits, we need to focus on the infrastructure and come up with a plan where we're building permanent relationships with our clients in regards to the infrastructure. What they did successfully in both New Mexico and New Jersey was they set up a separate tax credit program for people who built sound stages, either rented or purchased outright soundstage buildings. So if they were going to make that kind of investment into those states, they were able to access a different tax credits. And it was just encouraging them to spend more time there, do more projects there, hire more Pennsylvanians, right? Hire the people. Because at the end of the day, this is all about jobs.
Right.
The film industry is a fun way to work, but it's jobs, and it's jobs for locals. And it allows for a creative outlet for people who, like, not everyone wants to go to college. Not everyone wants to work in a factory or do manufacturing or even want to be involved with robots and technology. They want to use their creative side. They want to be in the film industry. They want to be in the entertainment industry. They want to work in that in some capacity. So setting up the environment to make that successful really should be at one of the top of the list for the Commonwealth.
You mentioned some support from legislatures. Is there any bills or anything out there to propose increasing, maybe uncapping the tax credit at all?
We have a lot of support on both sides of the aisle. We have the film caucus that was created by Senator Cameron Bartolotta and Senator Jay Costa. They're the co-chairs. Representative Joe Cerisi and Casey Tomlinson are the House members that are on that caucus. And they're constantly putting out there why we need more tax credits. There's not an actual bill number. Senator Bartolotta's office is working on the grant program for emerging filmmakers so we can start growing these emerging filmmakers into the pipeline as well, so that they can start moving up into the business of filmmaking, if you will. And we have a lot of support. I mean, Senator Wayne Fontana has been great. He's suggested many times we should uncap the program. Senator Devlin Robinson as well. He's got a program in place for multi-pictures so that we could do a deal like we did with Lionsgate back in the early days so that people can come and know I can do my next 5 shows in Pittsburgh or in Pennsylvania. They don't have to worry about getting approved one after one. So they're willing to make a commitment. We need to honor that commitment. So we're hopeful. The legislators are working really hard on this with us, but there's not an actual bill number or anything at this point. It's just the budget discussions, which are always so much fun this time of year.
So just some fun questions about movies in Pittsburgh. What are some popular areas in Pittsburgh that are used to film a lot?
We use the downtown central business district a lot because there's places still in downtown Pittsburgh that look like 1800s New York.
Wow.
Or 1800s, old time city. It doesn't even have to be New York. But if you stand on a corner, you can do a full 360 and you have incredible architecture that is there from the 1800s. You can walk 2 blocks and you've got modern architecture. You get in your car and you drive in 20 minutes and you're in farmland. So those sites are always important. They like to go up on Mount Washington and be able to look down on the city and get that view. Mm-hmm. They like to be in Point State Park, which is a great asset because it looks like you're out in the middle of nowhere for a little bit. You turn around, you've got that incredible view. You do a lot out in Lawrence County, out in Newcastle, out where the farmland is. We go up to Marine State Park. So we're always utilizing the natural resources that are here. And then the current favorite in Pittsburgh is our closed prison, which is SCI Pittsburgh, which was a state prison built in the late 1800s. Not a place you and I would ever really want to hang out, but it's an amazing location at this point. There are plans to demolish it at some point. I think the plans right now call for it to be gone in 2027 because it's not really serving a useful purpose. But the film industry is more than happy to use it while it's sitting there and empty. We have another closed prison in Westmoreland County in Greensburg, SCI Greensburg. We use that one as well. So we're not always in the places that, let's say, the tourism people really want shown. But because we have such a diversity of locations in so many of these great old buildings, it gets people excited about being here and getting things they couldn't get somewhere else. If we look like Los Angeles, as much as I'd love to have the weather and maybe the beach, we wouldn't have the work because we don't have that, they could get that look there. Why come to Pittsburgh and why come to Southwestern PA? But we're really fortunate that we have such a diversity.
Last question. Are there any upcoming projects being filmed in Pennsylvania that you can talk about? I know you mentioned hopefully that one TV show comes back for their next season.
At this point, no, we have nothing because we don't have any tax credits. And we've had a few calls. It's starting to pick up a little bit. We expect to see a season 4 of Mayor of Kingstown. We expect to see a season 3 of American Rust. And hopefully these projects will all get underway shortly. They're kind of waiting for the air dates to go through, make sure people are actually watching before they invest another $100 million into these shows. But we should hopefully see things start to pick up now that the budget process is almost over, that Pennsylvania will show that once again they're involved and interested in this industry, and hopefully we'll get the increase to $300 million, and then you'll see a lot more work happening.
We have been speaking with Dawn Keezer, Executive Director of the Pittsburgh Film Office. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.